Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lepolis Electric. I'm your host, Stephen Marcellino Jr., Vice President of Sales with Lepolis Electric, and I'm here today with a good friend, Enzo Gjonbalaj. And Enzo is a top-tier resident manager in New York City. In his career, he has successfully opened 3 new construction developments, and he is notably proud of his first development he had opened. Enzo, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with opening these new developments and where you're at today with your resident management career?
Well, thank you for having me on first. And so I've been in this business probably my whole life, even though I wasn't in it my whole life. You know, my father's owned property in the Bronx since the 80s. So I was working with my dad, renovating apartments, you know, the Bronx landlord specials, a lot of that stuff, if you know what I mean.
That's it.
Yeah, but
the good old days.
Yeah, you know, I got into finance, actually started working in banking, and then had a shift from banking into the residential business.
Nice.
It just wasn't for me.
2 completely different lifestyles, too.
Yeah.
Banking is a little more calm, slow. You know, your day is pretty much carved out for you day by day. And then you come into, the construction/property management world. Every day is different. You know, even every hour could be different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you get into our industry.
For me, I like it. I really do enjoy it. Especially enjoy new construction, to be honest. I really think it's nuanced. There's a lot of resident managers, but not all are for new construction, if you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of pre-war resident managers, and that's what they do. But me, I just love new construction. I love the engineering aspect.
Nice.
And I get to meet people like you.
Yeah, that's it. So you like to get involved. You like to be involved on, like, the design level. You like to know how the building's going to be built and, you know, putting together, I guess, so to speak, that strategy of how the building is going to be open for your end of what you do, from when it turns over from a general contractor to operations, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about, you know, your experience, you know, because I know you're very proud of the first building you had opened as a resident manager. And, you know, tell us a little bit about your experience in opening a building. You know, what does the procedure look like, handling the people, getting the apartments ready, the overall MEP infrastructure? You know, give us a little insight behind that.
So my first building, it was in Tribeca that I've opened. And I was given a chance because I really wasn't a resident manager, but I was given a chance by the developer, IGI, a gentleman named Dan Olsner, who I still thank to today. Really good gentleman, gave me that shot to open it. He brought me in probably like 7-8 months before anybody occupied it, before there was even TCOs.
Wow.
And I was there. I mean, I literally saw what's behind the walls. I was there when they were installing the RTU, which are like smaller cooling towers for the corridor, heating and air conditioning. Wow. Just a lot of the bones of the building.
So you got to see it before the building was even roughed.
Yep.
Wow.
And I get to spend time with the contractors there. So electricians, plumbers, carpenters, I mean, HVAC, you name it. I was there with them. Stuff like HVAC should be straight up, but it's never is.
No.
You know, when you're there from the beginning and you're there so long, it just becomes like your baby. And also, like, when it's time for the contractors to turn over the apartments, turn over floors, you know, punching them out, which going around my little blue tape, marking the areas that I see deficient, you know, developer gave me a lot of leeway. And I learned a lot.
So you really helped the development company and the GC kind of take it from, you know, a semi-completion status to turning it over to an operable residential tower in Manhattan to provide an overall positive experience for the people that are moving into the buildings, making sure the developer was happy with their project completion, and you were, you know, an integral part of making that happen, which is awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, because I know, you know, especially my experience in the construction industry, nothing's smooth.
No.
You know, there's a lot of curveballs. You know, there's a lot of unexpected ways a project was built, you know, that wasn't on the plans and things of that nature. So give me a couple of ideas of, you know, I don't want to call them horror stories, but what are some curveballs that were thrown at you, and how did you hit them to get that project to the finish line?
So one is actually when I in this project in Tribeca, actually, the electrician wasn't as big of an electrician, like, let's say, someone like Lepolis. And, you know, as a developer, it really is better to hire somebody like Lepolis or, you know, somebody big when you're doing a new development, because these guys, they took on too much work at once. They had that project, they had other projects. They had the manpower, but sometimes it's not just about the manpower. It's also about the financing. You know, when you take a job, you got to provide the material, you got to pay the manpower, you got to sign off on all the work. And the electricians basically ran out of money. They didn't pay their guys for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And the guys literally walked off the site one morning. And, you know, we were a few weeks away from a TCO inspection for, I think it was about 10 floors.
Wow.
So it was a really big deal. You know, I was talking to the supervisor. He's like, no, you know, we haven't been paid in 3 weeks. We're done. Like, and I said, let me just talk to the developers. Let me talk to, his name is Modi. Let me talk to him. Let's see what we could get done. Like, you know, there has to be a way to, he's like, listen, my guys are leaving. I was like, can you guys just wait across the street? I was like, I'll go grab you guys' car. I went and bought like 2 boxes of Dunkin' Donuts coffee, some bagels. They waited across the street. I called the developer. He called their company, their boss, and his boss just said, I don't have the money to pay them. Can you guys pay us a little earlier? Because, you know, in this thing, they pay in stages. So when you hit this stage, they release this much funds. When you pay
It's all
in this,
based on percentages.
yeah. So, and the developer said, well, I'm not comfortable releasing this to you. Actually, he goes, you haven't paid your guys in 3 weeks. Well, you know, I'm not really comfortable in paying you in advance. So they got to a point where the electrician agreed to sign off on the work, do the inspections. The staff, the developer, paid them directly.
Oh,
So
that's
he
nice.
literally brought his checkbook and cut everybody a check that day.
Wow.
Yeah, got the guys back on the site, but it was just,
And that really speaks, you know, not only to your ability to come up with a solution, you know, that's great problem solving. You thought about it, you know, let me keep these guys comfortable, get them some coffee, let me speak to my team, see what we can do to help you, you know, and that's great, you know, because a lot of people would, you know, especially in our industry, people get hot-headed, they get frantic, and they don't think properly. You know, when you get mad or agitated, I guess, so to speak, in a situation like that, and I've experienced it myself, you don't think straight, and your solutions aren't solutions. You're almost just adding to the problem. You know, so that's awesome. I definitely give you kudos for that, you know, because having all the electricians walk off a job a couple weeks out from TCO inspection, that definitely doesn't feel good in your gut, probably. I can only imagine.
no, I mean, listen, I wanted the buildings just to get occupied. I wanted people there. And
That's it.
it also was a financial thing for me, too, because, you know, my pay was set at a certain rate. And when people moved in, I got a certain bump in my pay.
Yeah,
So it's the deal I made with the developer. And,
that's fair.
you know, besides that, it's just, you know, I want to see the project done right.
Yeah.
Bringing in a new electrician will just delay stuff. That's
Yeah,
why I
you
said,
gotta
like,
sign over permits and introduce them to the job. They have to read up on the prints. You know, not that it can't be done. I mean, Lepolis has done that quite a few times, but it's stressful for everybody involved, and especially as an electrical contractor taking over a project, you have immediate pressure on you.
yeah.
It's not like you're coming into a job with leveling meetings and scope reviews and all that kind of preliminary logistics and planning. You're coming into like, we need this job done in 5 weeks. Figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I was hired once to come in to open a building, and the super that was there, the resident manager there, he was let go 3 months.
Wow.
And when I came on, the stuff that he did not get done right, or the stuff that was lacking, I couldn't say, oh, well, he messed up. It was it was like, what are you going to do about it? That there's no, and the same thing with, like you said, Lepolis or somebody coming in. They don't want to hear, like, what's the issue from the previous guy? What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, they want instant solutions, you know, and sometimes it's best in a situation like that to say, listen, I need a couple of days. Let me assess the situation and come up with a solution for you, you know, and not just try and jump right into the fire. You know, firefighter, if there's a fire, obviously there's an immediate need to put the fire out, but it's how are we going to approach this so we can get it out, put it out as quick as possible. You know, and let me ask you, what are like the top 5 skills that you could say if you're, you know, if there's young resident managers out there, property managers listening to this, what are like the top 5 skills you could tell somebody they should focus on when opening a new development?
I would say attention to detail is something that is very important. It's actually extremely important. The most minute thing, and when you have somebody who's paying $5 million for an apartment, when you go in there and you check that apartment and you punch it out, I mean, trust me, they come in with flashlights, with the lights off, checking the walls, checking. And it's stuff that you want to make sure is done right, that you're on top of, that you catch before. It'll just save you headaches down the road. And when somebody takes over a pristine apartment, it feels good. And they're like, you're the person giving them the keys. You're the person that they see. And it's just like, it is rewarding, you know?
Yeah.
Second would probably be people skills. You know, even if you're not a people person, you have to learn people skills. You have to learn how to get along with people. You have to learn how to not burn bridges. Trust me, there's plenty of people that I wouldn't go out with and have a drink with. But if you see us at work, you would not believe that.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm trying to be a fake person, but it's not about pretending to like someone. It's just respecting them, having them respect you, and, you know, knowing how to talk to people. I'm not really a person who raises my voice, so I think it's a really important skill. Not just this business, but every business.
Every business. And I'll agree with that, too. It's like the phrase when we were kids, playing the same sandbox. You know, at the end of the day, you're not going to like everyone you come across in life. You're not going to agree with something everybody says. If that was the case, then there'd be no problems in the world, so to speak. You know, but it's important to always remain professional and respectful of people when you are working in the same space. And at the end of the day, especially a coworker, whether you agree or disagree with them, you always have to have each other's backs, especially when you're dealing with other companies. Otherwise, it's a bad reflection on yourself and your organization.
Yep.
All right, give us number 3.
Checking your ego.
That's interesting. Dive into that one a little bit. I haven't heard that
Yeah,
one.
you know, as an RM, I've opened this building, that, and some, you know, pretty high-end stuff. And you think, like, I know everything. I know this. It's not true. Nobody knows everything. You know, say the developers on one day asked us to paint, to have the staff paint the refuse rooms white. So I gathered my staff, told the handyman, this is what you need to do. I want every refuse room painted white. You know, one of the guys like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's going to... In 2 weeks, it's going to look disgusting. It's going to be marks. It's not going to look good. We should paint it battleship gray. And I was like, listen, these are the guys paying for it. If they want us to paint it white, we paint it white. We don't ask questions. If they want us to paint it doo-doo brown, we paint it doo-doo brown. And in 2 weeks, if they say paint it yellow, we paint it yellow. You know what? They're paying for it. Do it.
Give them what they want.
I get what you're saying, and we already had this discussion with them, and this is what they want. And that's it. And, you know, it's something small, but it is still about checking your ego, like not fighting, you know. Even if you think something's better, you're not the decision maker. You're not the billionaire developer that...
Yeah, that's putting their, I guess, vision to work
and it's
funding
not even,
it.
It's not even them sometimes that makes these decisions. It's an interior decorator, somebody who's in charge of design. These decisions get made by so many people. It's even now where I am, they want to redo the kids' playroom. We have to talk to 5 different people. Yeah. And all 5 have to agree on a concept, and it's...
And that's what it comes down to, you know, and that's another major point. Everything is team-based this day and age. You know, there's no sole decision maker in 90% of the projects that I deal with as well, you know. Even on my side, when we're performing a job, as minute as it may seem, there's at least a minimum of 3 people that touch a single project in my office. From a $1,500 project to a $30-40 million, you know, ground up development. You know, because the more people that touch it, the more people that look at it, the more people that have input. You know, and that's a perfect point of the checking your ego is the less possibility there's going to be a mistake on the job. Yeah. You know, and for any one person to think that they're the end-all, be-all decision maker, you know, none of us are God. And the moment we try to play God anywhere in life, that's when problems happen. Oh, yeah. You know, so that's a very, very valid point.
And also checking your ego is how you explain things sometimes, too. How, so on a project that you actually worked with me once, we had water towers installed, new gravity tanks, wooden water towers, cedar wood. The water was, it smelled and tasted like wood throughout the building. And the developer. So anytime you install a new wooden tank, it's going to happen.
Is there anything you could like put on the inside of the tank to?
No, you just gotta flush the tank.
Filters itself out.
Yeah, after a few months, it goes away. It depends on the water usage.
Gotcha.
Now, not all water tanks are for domestic water, which means water you could drink and bathe in. Some
Gotcha.
are just for the standpipe.
Yeah.
Depends on how the building's designed. That building was designed to have it for standpipe and domestic water.
Oh wow, so they commingled the two.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it was designed that way. The developer was trying to figure out with the general contractor, why and how they could fix that. And it was one of the first meetings I sat on because we had weekly construction meetings.
Yep.
So I said, it's common. I've been in charge of overseeing gravity tank installations. It's just normal. It's sort of like, and a developer made a joke. He says, well, it's like me pushing the cork into my wine bottle. And he goes, getting that corky taste to it. And he made a joke about it. He goes, that can't be it. And me, instead of saying, well, I know what I'm talking about, I've done it before, I won't say it that way. I said, listen, I could call, there's 3 big wooden tank installation companies. I could call all 3. I know people at all 3. They could each give us material on it, and which they did, and I showed it to him. And he said, okay, this makes sense. So I didn't come out to be like, I know, I knew what the answer was, but, sometimes you can't just come out and say, I know it because I know it.
Yeah.
It's how you explain stuff, how you deliver stuff, and he appreciated that. He actually, going on from there, he would take my word more.
Wow.
Because he knew that I would actually go and...
So he trusted you. He developed another level of trust for you, you know, and same thing back to when you had the problem with the electricians walking off that one project, you showed a capability of problem solving and I guess a positive approach to a situation that not many people are level-headed enough to do that.
I mean, I had a mentor who told me, don't complain without a solution. So if you're going to come to me to complain about something, come with a solution. Because if you're just coming to complain...
I like that.
We're not solving anything here.
No, we're wasting time.
So if you have a complaint, good. What's the solution?
Very nice.
Yeah, and ever since then, now, like, I think about it, like, not just to go and complain, because it is true. You're not going to solve anything.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
So we got attention to detail, people person, and check your ego. What's number 4?
I'm not sure. It's just knowledge of the job, learning, get to know the job before you go into it. There's some resident managers got into the business from knowing certain people, and it's not as easy anymore as it used to be. Lying on a resume, you're going to get exposed pretty quickly.
Very quick.
You should definitely get in the field and work your way up. Learn a little bit,
Yeah.
It's really important. It just is. I don't know how else to put it.
No, and that's like kind of like the same thing for me on my end. Although I deal with a completely different industry. Although you touch parts of electric, you handle full MEPs plus facility management, a whole slew of operations. For me, it's if I bring on a sales rep or some type of operations style manager or something of that nature, and they sit in the office with me and Carmine Lapolis and tell us all these great things they could do, and then we put them to work and we find out in 3 weeks, if it even takes that long, because when you first hire an employee, you're looking to make sure that they're producing the way they said they can produce and the way you expect, to uphold your company standard. It's very quick to sniff out if somebody lied to you. It's, and a lot of people think that they're smarter than everybody and they could Google, the top 5 characteristics of a good salesperson and throw it on their resume. But if you don't physically possess those characteristics or mentally possess those characteristics, we're going to find out eventually, whether it's 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the line, it all exposes itself to who you truly are. You can only hide for so long behind a mask. Yeah,
like I said, the gentleman, Dan Olson, who actually hired me as my first RM job, I was honest with him. I said, I'm in the business. I'm learning. I'm an assistant RM. I'm not an RM. This is my knowledge.
Yep.
And he said, you could learn here. And you got the opportunity to be here for 8 months with all the subcontractors and the GC and the CM and learn the job.
And that's big, and that's something that we truly believe in too at Lapolis. Not everybody is an expert in every area of industry, whether it's facilities management, banking, electrical construction. you know, everybody has things they need to learn unless they've been around for 50, 60 years and they're a veteran at that point. You know, so we really like to embrace a culture of training, you know, teaching the new guy the ropes, you know, whatever it may be to help people rise up and become a professional. You know, and if you don't create those opportunities for people, your business is never going to grow. And that's a philosophy that Carmine Lapolis has. He's always trying to mentor people. Whether you've been in the industry for 20 years, 5 years, you're just entering the industry, mentorship and training is key to having an overall successful organization and also making sure the individual grows as a professional, you know? So it's very important, and I feel like that's lost in a lot of companies. You know, I think a lot of companies rely heavily on that resume or the college diploma on the wall or whatever it may be, and they don't think to train their employees, you know, and it causes a couple of different effects mentally for people, and one of them being, you know, you're almost like not satisfied with the workspace. You feel like you're just another number on the deli ticket line. You know, when you get granular and you sit with people for a few hours a day or a week and take the time to explain the function of a specific piece of equipment or how a software in the computer works, whatever it may be, how to interact with people, whatever you're training them on, it says a lot about, you know, the overall interaction of the company on a you know, interpersonal level.
I mean, for me, I actually find it successful when somebody that is under me that I'm mentoring becomes an RM.
Yep.
It actually, you know, I like that. You know, it means I'm actually doing a good job. If nobody under me is moving up, then I'm not really, you know, doing them any justice or helping them out. And I don't like to lose good people, good employees, but, you know, I don't want to hold anybody back either.
Nope. No, it's not fair. You know, it's almost, it goes back to the ego. You know, if you're at a point where people aren't leveling up around you, it's two things. Either you or I are not good at our job, or, you know, you're hindering them purposely so you could keep them underneath you because they're fulfilling a specific task that you need them to complete. You know, for me, you know, my reps on my sales team, I want everyone around me to be $1 million earner. You know what I mean? And I want to see people elevate and get to the different tiers of sales representative from, you know, 1 through 5, and then move on to senior rep, director of sales. I want to see people grow because, A, we're growing as a team, and B, I'm like, wow, they really understood what I was telling them. And it's like a beautiful thing. You know, it's like it's almost like watching your kid grow up. You know, obviously it's a little different when it's your kid, but, you know, it's that evolution of a employee or coworker it truly is. It's an unspoken, you know, I guess positive of the industry when you're in a position to help people grow.
Yeah, I mean, I had one guy under me. He wasn't doing the work up to my standards, and honestly, it should have been his standards. I pulled him to the side to talk to him, and he said, he goes, "You're just mad because you think I'm going to take your job." And I said, "Listen, man," I go, "I wish you could take my job." And he just looked at me. He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "That means I'm doing good if you could take my job."
That's it.
I said, "That means I'm doing a good job." I said, "And if you could take my job, then I don't really got my job."
That's
I go,
it.
"Then I'm on thin ice here."
Yep.
I go, "You know, my job is to make you better. And when you do better, it reflects upon me, to be honest."
That's it.
You know, but again, like I'm not worried. I told him, you know, I've been in this business for a while. I met a lot of people. I'll get another job.
Yeah.
I said, "There's plenty of jobs out there. I'm not worried about that."
And we're in New York City too.
Yeah.
There's millions of buildings to manage in New York City.
Yeah, I told him, end of the day, if I got to, I'll do Postmates. It's not a big deal. I told him, you know, just learn.
That's
I
a good
said,
answer.
you know, and he sort of was, you know, taken aback when I told him that. He was like, he just didn't know what to say to me.
It's humbling. It's humbling to hear that.
Yeah, I think, you know, but we've had a different relationship since. You know, he's
That's
been doing
awesome.
better.
That's
So,
good. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And now give us number 5. What is your last and final characteristic or skill of a good RM opening a new building?
Learn when to have a good time, joke, and when not to.
Gotcha.
You got to learn the line. I think it's something that balanced, you know. I'm a guy who, I love to joke. I love to smile. I love to, you know, there's also times you have to be serious. You know, I had a new condo owner who moved in. He paid $3.8 million for a studio apartment. Yeah, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Does that even have a living room in it, or it's just like a bedroom and a bathroom at that
it
point?
had 30-foot ceilings.
Wow.
It was a giant one space. It was just one room with a bathroom and a little closet.
Wow.
But I guess you pay to live in Tribeca. You have the amenities. There's just a lot of things
Yeah,
involved.
there's unspoken positives.
Yeah, and then he ended up making it a one bedroom, and basically because the ceilings were 30 feet high, he installed a separate level in there.
Yeah, I'd say he started building up.
Yeah, so he turned it into something even more than it was.
Awesome.
He moved in there, and he was like, "Hey, any suggestions on the area? I'm moving." He came in from out of state, and I told him a few suggestions because the first thing I do when I go to a new building is I like to learn the area.
Yeah.
I like to learn what's going on, what are the good places. I go out there and I study them, try to figure out where's the best bar, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So I said, listen, I go, I still have some more stuff to do, but I'll, send you a little text he gave me his number. And then later on, I shot him a text and I brought him a 12-pack.
Nice.
Yeah. And he actually said, he's like, no RM has ever bought me a 12-pack. I said, well, you just moved in. I noticed you didn't have any beers.
Yeah.
He just laughed. And he's like, we were, ever since then, just me and him had a good relationship.
That's awesome.
I do keep the line of friendly and also work with somebody. So he invited me to have dinner one day, and I said, listen, I can't. And, I said, I love to. You're a great guy, And it wasn't like, it was just friends. And
Yeah.
I said, the thing is, I work here, and, I don't ever mix that line, ever.
Yeah, you want to remain professional.
Because one day he may not like me. One day he may get mad about something, and he say, oh, this guy's, going out to dinner, he's saying this, that. You got to know when to toe that line.
Yeah, no, that's very important to be able to keep. A lot of people mix up being professional and courteous, like you explained you were with, bringing him a 12-pack, new apartment, introduce him to the town kind of thing, and then going out and enjoying a night out with somebody. It's a completely different line. Once you cross that line, not saying those relationships aren't possible, but you have to know who and when to have them with.
Yep.
And, you have to know your audience. That's really important.
I mean, what if the guy decides to get into a fight that night?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I'm not good looking to get into a fight with anybody.
Yeah, no.
I just want to do my job, go home, have a drink, and then he's like, oh, this, the RM was with me. He let me get beat up.
Yeah.
or I do get into a fight with him and then I get arrested. I could lose my job. He's not going to lose his apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a domino effect. And the fact you have the foresight to forecast possibilities, sitting here talking about it, I'm sure it was probably a normal dinner and the guy had a great night, whatever it was, but you go through the list of possibilities when you mix personalities together. You don't know his friends. You don't know who's going out. And, God forbid something happened. You have to protect yourself and your family, too. I mean, it's not like you're a single guy running around. You have a wife, you have kids, so you have people that rely on you. So the fact that you can really have that foresight and really think on a more, I guess, mature level of professionalism, to see that is a huge characteristic of who you are.
So I have a lot of older cousins, and since I was young, 15 years old, my older cousins always took me around with them everywhere. And I like to say, I saw how to do things and how to not do things as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, I learned a lot, too, from them. So, I always took all that in. And it just helps in every professional, personal life. 2013, I was in Williamsburg. And a resident, I went to her apartment to go over some complaints she had with a handyman. She was a DJ in the area. She opens the door, and she's in her underwear.
Oh, God.
She's like, just come in and look at it. I said, I'm sorry, we can't come in. She said, excuse me. I go, we'll come back when you're a little more appropriate. Don't want to come in right now. She said, are you kidding me? It's not a big deal. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but who knows, the list
I said, I understand. I go, that you're comfortable. I said, but I just respectfully ask that you just cover yourself a little more and we will come in gladly. And, she closed the door. The handyman said, turned to me, said, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I said, listen, man. I go, 9 out of 10 times she's honest. She doesn't care. She's comfortable. We could go do our things and leave. I go, what happens if we go in there and she's looking for a lawsuit or she's looking, I don't know, at whatever
Anything could happen.
Yeah, I
at
said,
that
listen,
point.
just don't open yourself up, man.
No.
It's not worth it.
And that's that speaks to a whole nother list of problems, I guess, because when I think of resident manager, and this is what I'm talking about before, when I say you handle so many different areas of a building other than just what I'm focused on, which is electrical. There's so many problems and possibilities and outcomes of different scenarios.
Yep.
Being a resident manager, there's some of these buildings in the city have hundreds and thousands of apartments. That's thousands of different personalities, and the way people live their lives. So that's another major side to the industry you're in. You're not just managing, electrical panels and HVAC units. It's almost easier to just deal with equipment sometimes. When you're a resident manager, it's a little different than working in like a commercial property where you just have to deal with the back of house. And you have a property manager in between you and the tenants on the other floors. You're on call 24/7, I would imagine, and that's a major side of what you do.
I mean, on property on 13th Street, there was a lot of younger residents there.
Yeah.
Either in school or young professionals, influencers, or just young in whatever career they're in. And, they'd come in with their parents moving in. You'd be surprised how many parents said, like, this is my baby, like, look out for them.
Yeah.
To me.
You're almost like a big brother away from home to these families.
Big brother. I've had to become a psychologist sometimes.
Oh, man.
A girl broke up with her boyfriend. The doorman's calling me, like, this lady's crying in the lobby. Can't get her to go upstairs. It's like she's disturbing people. She's drunk. Just like, can you put her on the phone? Let me talk to her. Just it's crazy. Like the stuff, staff. Staff is actually a bigger headache sometimes than residents.
Really?
Not always, but sometimes.
So let me ask you something. When you're dealing with staff, whether it's a senior member of your team or somebody under you that you're trying to mentor and coach, how does that play? That work environment, I guess, so to speak. How does that play into the overall question of like work-life balance? And if you're unhappy at work, how does it affect you at home?
It actually affected me greatly one time. I used to be 330 pounds.
Wow.
I was a big dude, and my health wasn't really too good. The pandemic had just started, and, I had a stressful time, especially with the staff, with my supervisor. Sorry. And it affected me. I just didn't care to go to work out, ate whatever, didn't sleep well.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just got myself out that situation. Instead of just staying there, being miserable, time to move on.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the best thing. Just
Flip
move.
the switch.
I didn't even have another job. I gave him my notice. I said, you got 2 months. I'm going to look for work. If I don't find it, I'll be all right. But I had to take care of myself. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important. People sometimes forget to take care of themselves. They think work is everything. It's not. You have to find that really good balance. It's really important.
Yeah.
Now I'm I'm not 100% perfectly happy. There's always something that can make you a
there's
little
always something
happier.
that could be different.
But I'm happy overall. I really can't complain. I got 3 great kids, a wonderful, loving wife.
Yep.
I'm comfortable in my job. I'm happy where I am now. I'm in Brooklyn, run this 430 unit building.
Wow.
So yeah. And this building, 430 units.
Yeah.
I had taken on a job once, 5-unit condo, 13 stories. As a second job, more so to help the property manager. I really wasn't interested in it. He's like, can you please just help me do it part-time?
Yeah.
He's like, it's a little extra income for you. It's only 5 units. I said, all right. More headaches and work than this 430 unit
Really?
building. Yeah.
What contributed to some of the headaches in the smaller building opposed to the monster you're in now?
Reality. The condo board they needed to face up to reality. What they wanted and what they were paying for and asking for just didn't add up. You had a part-time RM. You had a part-time concierge. When you wanted a full-time, when you want somebody basically at the drop of a dime, it's like, well, you got to hire somebody for that, and you got to pay for that. And I don't want to sound rude, but I'm not going to give you my time for free.
Yeah.
I worked hard, studied hard, probably did more in HVAC courses than most people do in 4 years of college. I have certificates that I don't think I'll ever need in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got licenses in locksmiths,
Wow.
HVAC, high pressure gas boilers, EPA certificates I have. It's just
Yeah,
stuff.
you're well decorated in our industry.
Well, it's stuff that you need to know because you need to know everything.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not gonna do something for free. It's just not
No.
gonna happen.
It can't happen, and I kind of want to talk a little too about our experience working
Yeah.
together. I know you mentioned the building with the wooden tanks on top.
Yeah.
Lepolis had actually built that
Yeah.
tower, for the company you were previously with, and our first experience working together was when there was water infiltration in the main switchgear service of the building. I think there was some water that had come in from the street on the utility side. The POE wasn't properly sealed or something of that
Yep.
nature, and it damaged the copper bus and the switchgear, and it was causing problems in your building. Unfortunately, Lepolis came in, on behalf of you and your company, and we designed the full remedial scope of work. We had a whole temporary power plan set up for you guys. And that was a large building too, and there was a lot of challenges there. It was a very upscale luxury condo and
Two towers.
two towers, and amenity. It was a beautiful building, and there was a lot of problems that could have arisen, if that project did not go perfectly.
Yep.
For us on my end, especially when we're performing these shutdowns of these towers in the city, people say there's nothing called perfect. When you do a project like that, it has to be 100% perfect, because if something doesn't go right, your building's not coming back online. And that's a problem in itself.
And it's also a thankless job, because end of the day, I know my manager and residents were not thanking Lepolis, and I'm saying to them, do you guys know what they actually did?
Yeah. Well, that was like, I know we always laugh when we talk about it. I always bring it up every time I see you.
Oh, yeah.
There was the kid, and nonetheless, it was in the middle of July. Couldn't have done this at a worse time. Middle of July, we had a full team in the basement. They had to fully disassemble the main switchgear of the building. We had to do something called corrective de-energized maintenance. So we completely disassembled the entire main switchgear service, and it was not a small service. We had to make modifications to the switchgear to properly, rearrange some wires inside. And, there was hundreds and maybe thousands of pieces of components and hardware that we had to take apart, remember exactly where everything went, and we had to repair the problem inside of the main switchgear to bring it back to normal operating condition, which fortunately we did successfully. And to do that, and to see our technicians working the way they were working, and to come up to the lobby to ask you a question, and there was a kid complaining that he couldn't play Call of Duty because the building had no power, was just like crazy to me, and you were very respectful, explaining to him, listen, if the electrical contractor does not get this done, the whole building's not going to have power. So they're actually doing us a favor right now. I know it's an inconvenience to you at this moment because you can't play your video game, but this entire 500,000 square foot building is not going to have power if this work doesn't get executed properly, and I'm not going to interfere with what's going on in the basement at this point in time.
And it was also preventative. So that's
100%.
the thing, because we were going to get a problem where we could lose power on an emergency. And then when you lose power on an emergency, it's not down for, what was it, 6 hours? I can't remember, 8 hours, something.
The outage?
Yeah.
No, we were on site for 20 hours. For that
Whatever
job.
it was, 20. But still, that's still not bad.
Yeah.
I see. I don't even remember how long it was.
Yeah, it was definitely a long day.
So
at night.
If I don't remember 20 hours, it wasn't that bad.
No, exactly, and that's the point. Yeah. Well, initially the outage time was so we could tie in the temporary power for you guys. So that's the big thing. A lot of the time when we do these building outages, if the building owner or property managers want temporary power available, we have the means to provide you with a temporary temporary or alternate power source. Fortunately, you had 2 switchgear services in that room, so we were able to tap power off of, one service to safely, provide temporary power to the building. We could bring in generators, temporary switchgear, whatever you need, to make sure the facility, whether it's a residential tower, hospital, data center, commercial tower, whatever it is, doesn't see any interruption to the daily operations, while we're doing our work. And that project was every bit of difficult. I will not say that was an easy project because I would be lying to you if I did. But fortunately, once we reassembled the whole switchgear, we tested it, ran our insulation resistance tests, our contact resistance tests. Everything had passing numbers. Switchgear was, fully put back together the way the manufacturer recommends it, be installed, torqued down properly, the whole 9. And we got the building back online, and to this day, that building has not had a single problem in that section of switchgear.
It would have probably been easier to put everything brand new than, because now you're also repairing damage from a leak where stuff is corroded, rusted, getting the components off. I remember it took forever just to get stuff out the switchgear.
Yeah, and that's the thing, a lot of people like the idea of the new switchgear, and then you start running the numbers, and you're like, that's going to be a couple $1 million. We could have Lapolis come in here for a fraction of that cost and perform this corrective de-energized maintenance. And, certain situations when you have like the corrosion on the hardware and things of that nature, we will upgrade hardware. We'll bring in new fuses. We'll modify, certain components of the switchgear so it's in new condition. And for us, it is never an option to be without power in a building. If we do an outage, we guarantee you your building is coming back online. And it's going to operate even better than it did before we were inside of your power source.
I don't know if you worked with Lapolis in 2013.
I've been in and around Lapolis my entire life. So
they did this property in Williamsburg, and Sandy hit
187 Kent,
184 Kent,
184 Kent. Yeah,
Sandy hit.
So just to give you an idea, at the time I was working with our delivery driver to bring material to the crew that was building the job.
Okay, so that is that. And Sandy hit and flooded a switchgear room. So we had to literally do shutdowns for weeks, every day for 8 hours. I had to pull all the copper out. That building is split in 4 towers.
That was a big building. It is a big building.
Yeah, pull it out, run new lines from downstairs up. I mean, it was a big job. And that's why I said earlier, some of these developers, they fall victim to hiring subcontractors that they don't know. It seems like they're great, and I feel bad sometimes for the developer, but they're not ready for that work.
Like you said, it's not just manpower. They don't have the management staff. Yep. They don't have the financial backing, the insurance, the bonding. I mean, there's so much that goes into successfully completing a construction development that people either don't think of at the point in time, or they're trying to nickel and dime and save money, and then in the long run they're pretty much throwing good money after bad money and creating an even bigger problem.
Well, insurance is a big thing. We did a new roof, and half the people who bid on it we disqualified just because they didn't have enough coverage.
Wow.
And their prices were good, but is it worth for somebody to get hurt or fatally hurt and not be covered? And it sounds cold to say, but it's true.
No, it's true. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, insurance isn't even just to protect yourself from financial liability. It's to make sure, God forbid, someone does get hurt, they're going to be able to get the proper care on a medical side, and everyone's going to be covered for that. Yes. Insurance is there not because you want to have it, but in case you need to use it, it's there to protect everybody that's involved with the project.
Yes.
And give me, Enzo, before we wrap up here, give me a little bit of insight on what motivates you to get up every day and work this, high-paced, high-stress job? What is your motivating factor to doing what you do?
Honestly, it's different now than it used to be. Now it's my family, my wife, my kids, making sure they get the stuff, in life that I don't want my kids to want, to be honest. Kind of spoil my daughter, not going to lie, but I just want them to have stuff, Before it was, honestly, I'm not sure. It was just, I liked it.
Yeah.
I explained it. I always wanted higher pay, higher position, stuff
There
like
was a
that.
passion for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those are two great motivating factors right there: family and passion. And listen, Enzo, I want to thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
out here today. I know you took a troop from Brooklyn to come to do this with me today, and I really just want to take the time to thank you. I want to say thank you to all the listeners watching today. Again, Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric, and I'm your host, Stephen Marcellino Jr. Thank you for watching.